I'm B News producer Sydney Bowles here with Burlington Superintendent of Schools, Dr. Eric Conti, for our monthly Superintendent Update. Dr. Conti, thank you so much for being here.
Hi, Sydney. Pleasure.
So, pretty big news in the past month. Couple of things going on.
Few things, yes.
As of this taping, we are a couple of days out from a pretty big vote at the Elementary School Building Committee. This was to eliminate the option for a larger Fox Hill school. There'd been some months of conversation about whether we were going to go with a larger Fox Hill, combine it with Pine Glen, or the smaller one.
Mm-hmm.
And that decision has kind of been made. So is it a weight off your shoulders to have this choice at least kind of decided?
Yeah, I'm not sure it was ever a weight on my shoulders. I think it was an important process to go through. I think it's important to listen, and I think clearly it was an emotional conversation that the community needed to have. I think if the decision was made without that dialogue, that would have been more problematic. It's hard to sometimes sit through the dialogue, but I think it was important that we have it. I think the Elementary Building Committee did a nice job. I think they spent a lot of time. I think Chairperson Melissa did really tried to reach as much as the community as humanly possible. And so I think that was it was a necessary process to go through.
Does it make it less intimidating to think about financing this project, dealing with town meeting financing and potentially a debt exclusion with the smaller version of this project?
I'm not the best person to talk about sort of the big financing picture. I think the town does a great job with their finance planning and their team. I think Mr. Sagarino, Mr. Denizio, and their, again, Ways and Means are all very involved. I think they'll make the best choices for the community. To be honest with you, the sort of debt exclusion process is much more typical in the Commonwealth than not. So I'm sort of used to it being both ways. And I think it's, again, a debt exclusion is a community conversation, and we're going to be getting input from the community on how to spend their money moving forward. So I happen to think this is a smart investment. But again, I won't be voting, I'll just be advocating.
Absolutely fair enough. I want to talk about a couple of other things that came up at a recent school committee meetings.
Mm-hmm.
One was the vote to hire an additional homeless family liaison to serve an increase in families struggling with homelessness in the district. You talked a little bit about what the character of those families is and what those needs are, but I wonder if you could share again kind of the scope of the challenge and how we're hoping to support those families as a district, or how you're hoping to.
Well, I hate to even use the word fortunate. We're part of hosting families that need housing, and but have not been as impacted in terms of numbers as some of our neighboring communities have been. So, but what we've seen is a significant increase in our student population who would be considered or classified as homeless. So as I try to explain, the state isn't solely responsible for that. They're responsible for a percentage. We also have students coming to us who are living with other families and are considered homeless. So there's a sort of a different category, but they're not coming here or being placed here by the state. And then we also have what people would think of as more typical or traditional Burlington families that are also being displaced and contributing to our homeless population. So it was really about moving from a very small number of students who we were able to deal with in a very individualized way to now having to create systems, because the numbers are reaching 30, 50, and potentially growing to a larger population where it's more than just part-time work, and there needs to be follow-up, there needs to be connections to the community. It impacts schools, but it's really a community issue that we need to broaden the conversation with.
Right. I mean, it seems like the conversation has sort of been, a lot of it is administrative need, making sure we have information on vaccinations and that kind of thing. And then also the support needs for kids who are dealing with potentially challenging circumstances outside of their school lives.
Yes, and so all of those things, and then not all, but many of the students and families are multilingual. And so making sure that even connecting with them and educating them and making them aware of the resources that are available, it's not as easy as communicating like we would with a sort of well-established family that are comfortable communicating in English.
On a different note, I remember being in high school. I'm in the high school, we're in the high school building right now, so I feel like that's top of mind for me. I remember the first couple of weeks of the school year were always, where are my classes? How does the structure work? Am I bringing enough snacks? And then after the first couple of weeks, it's like, okay, we're really in this. We're like ironing out the kinks, like we're figuring it out. Is that what it's like for you at this time of the school year?
Yes, and I think it's even amplified from that because of the sort of the pandemic changes we needed to make. The prior starts have been also very structurally changed, and this is sort of the first year back that I'm feeling that our routines are more typical, and so we're getting back, and I'm feeling some of those similar rhythms that we had prior to the pandemic. So that's a relief in a sense.
What are the COVID thought processes and precautions looking like now? Is that just totally out the window? Is it still?
Well, again, I'm not sure all of the agencies have kept up their language. So I think that we had published something from the Department of Health or the CDC, which is their language, but not really what we're practicing now. So we're really treating COVID now like we would any other viral issue. So if students have a fever or any other viral infection, that they would need to be kept home, and they need to be, I think, 48 hours fever-free without taking any sort of Tylenol or anything like that. And that's really how we are monitoring that. I think there are some masking recommendations that families need to monitor, but it's really gone from a school-managed illness to a family-managed illness, and so families need to take whatever precautions they would like. Obviously, we respect anyone who wants to wear a mask to school or a mask to work, but certainly we're not stepping in or requiring that or requiring testing. Or again, we're out of that oversight role.
It's kind of incredible to think about how far we've come step by step, hesitating steps sometimes and leaps other times. But it's been, I don't know, I'm just sort of in my own head now about the whole journey of COVID over the last.
Yeah, I think what I told the staff at the opening is I think I've lost 2 or 3 years of my life. So if you ask me, do you remember when this happened? And I'd say, oh, that was 2 years ago. They'd say, no, Eric, that was 5 years ago. And I'd say, oh, well, yeah. So I've lost track of time.
Speaking of time, it is fall, the leaves are changing, it is beautiful. Are there any Burlington School fall traditions that you are especially into, or things that happen this time of year that you're jazzed about?
Well, I think that really love the Pine Glen sort of September 11th remembrance. I don't like why they do it, but I really like that they do it and make that connection with the first responders. That's always something I look forward to. The Halloween is sort of a fall festival that kids really get excited about, and we don't really celebrate anything in school, but just the energy surrounding it. I kind of like fall sports are great and a way of getting sort of all the students back together. And then we have a few other happenings now. So we have a group of students presenting actually at the Northeastern Burlington campus this afternoon. I think right now it's at the It's at the there's a drone or a national conference on pilotless flight or something like that, and the kids are presenting, and so it's great to have that resource. So a lot of really great activities and opportunities in the fall that we can get started with. Awesome.
Dr. Conti, thank you very much for being here, and I'll see you again next month.
You will. My pleasure.